Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Please sing alongside. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tatho Jayam Udhiraye Shrunvatam Swakatha Krishna Punya Shiva हृदयन्तस्तो यभद्राणि विधुनोति सुहृत्सतां नष्टप्रायेष्वभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवतः सेवया भगवती उत्तमा श्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय. Hare Krishna dear devotees. Today we'll be reading Canto 1, Chapter 19, verse number 33. येषां संस्मरणात् पुंसां सद्य शुद्ध्यन्ति वै गृहा किं पुनर्दर्शन स्पर्शा पादशौचानिधिभिः शौचासनादिभिः येषां संस्मरणात् पुंसां सद्य शुद्ध्यन्ति वै गृहा किं पुनर्दर्शन स्पर्शा पादशौचानिधिभिः येषां संस्मरणात् पुंसां सद्य शुद्ध्यन्ति वै गृहा किं पुनर्दर्शन स्पर्शा पादशौचासनादिभिः येषां संस्मरणात् पुंसां सद्य शुद्ध्यन्ति वै गृहा किं पुनर्दर्शन स्पर्शा पादशौचासनादिभिः. Word to word translation and purport by His Divine Grace Shri A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Yesham of whom Samsmaranat by remembrance Pumsam of a person Sadyah instantly Shuddhyanti cleanses Vai certainly Griha all houses Kim what Punaha then Darshana meeting Sparsha touching Pada the feet Shaucha washing Asana adibihi by offering a seat etc. Translation. Simply by our remembering you, our houses become instantly sanctified. And what to speak of seeing you, touching you, washing your holy feet, and offering you a seat in our home. Purport. The importance of holy places of pilgrimage is due to the presence of great sages and saints. It is said that sinful persons go to the holy places and leave their sins there to accumulate. But the presence of the great saints disinfects the accumulated sins, and thus the holy places continue to remain sanctified by the grace of the devotees and saints present there. If such saints appear in the homes of worldly people, certainly the accumulated sins of such worldly enjoyers become neutralized. Therefore, the holy saints actually have no self interest with the householders. The only aim of such saints is to sanctify the houses of the householders, and the householders therefore should feel grateful when such saints and sages appear at their doors. A householder who dishonors such holy orders is a great offender. It is enjoined, therefore, that a householder who does not bow down before a saint at once must undergo fasting for the day in order to neutralize the great offense. ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषशून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। जय श्रीकृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानन्द श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे. Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please offer prayer. May the right words come at the right time in the glorification of Srimad Bhagavatam. Please. Request. It is said that in any discussion on the Srimad Bhagavatam, between the speaker and the audience is most important, because if there is no speaker, we can arrange for a recorded class or we can arrange for some other speaker to speak. But if there is no audience, then we should only preach to the four walls, as Prabhupada has said. So thank you all for giving me your audience for today's class and encouraging me to discuss the Srimad Bhagavatam. Today we are looking at uh, close to the end of the first canto, and there are two themes that I really wanted to cover in today's class. One of them is something that Kautukarna Prabhu touched upon yesterday about begging, and actually the entire Krishna consciousness movement is showing us or teaching us how to be a good beggar. So we will look at how to be a good beggar. So we will draw on lessons from beggars that we may have come across, or some in the US we may call them homeless people, and in India they are called beggars. So just a nomenclature, but we will try to see what we can learn from how they interact or behave, and how we can apply that to our Krishna consciousness. And the other aspect is especially what this verse is covering, that is um, the sages who come in the garb of begging to the house of the householder is actually doing them a service rather than receiving or accepting the service. So we will touch a little bit upon that. So there were a couple of things that I wanted to just touch upon. One is when it said that sinful persons go to the holy places and leave their sins there to accumulate. So if many of you were following the news, um, it was a very auspicious 12-year Kumbh Mela that comes once in 144 years, that happened last year. And there were a lot of people who had never been to that region of India ever. But just because they heard that there's the Kumbh Mela and this one is a special one that appears once in a lifetime, basically, they wanted to just go there. But their main aim was not to associate with the saints there, it was to get rid of their sins. They thought that taking a dip during the most auspicious time of the Kumbh Mela would be very auspicious to them. And it is also funny that sometimes people sent their photographs to people to dip into the water, and then they said that by dipping the photograph, their sins were all vanquished. And it was quite funny to see. And that is exactly what Prabhupada is talking about in his purport. And this is 50 years or 60 years before. And that's exactly what happened there in during the Kumbh Mela. So sinful persons generally go to a holy place and leave their sins there to accumulate, whereas the presence of great saints actually disinfects the accumulated sins. So in the 10th canto, 84th chapter, there is a verse. I'll just read the translation, where it is actually quite a strong word. Words. It says, "One who identifies his self as the inert body composed of mucus, bile, and air, who assumes his wife and family as permanently his own, who thinks of an earthen image or the land of his birth as worshipable, or who sees a place of pilgrimage as merely the water there, but who never identifies himself with, feels kinship with, worships, or even visits those who are wise in spiritual truth, such a person is no better than a cow or an ass." So this verse is trying to tell us that it is the as Prabhu quotes often, it's Tirtha Bhutani Swayam Vibho, Tirtha Kurvanti Tirthani, Swantaste Gada. It says, Tirtha Bhutani Swayam Vibho. It is the holy person who, it is the person who has Krishna in his heart, who, when he visits a place, makes it a holy place. And he makes the holy place even holier by his presence there. So this explains some aspects of why when a renunciate comes to a householder's house seeking alms, he is coming there to give them his association. And it is the great honor and good fortune of the householder to accept the sannyasi and give the best of what they have to the sannyasi. Now, that is because they have, the expectation is that they have Krishna in their heart. And as a result, you are welcoming Krishna into your house and offering the best of what you have to Krishna. Now this can also be taken the other way. There are many show bottle, as Prabhupada likes to call, show bottle renunciates who just visit people's homes to accept the best that they have, not to give them their association or discuss Krishna Katha. So it is said that the Grihastha ashram is the only ashram that allows dharma, artha, kama, and moksha, all four of the purusharthas. The other three ashramas, that is brahmachari, the vanaprastha, and the sannyasi, they only have dharma and moksha. Only these two purusharthas, no kama and no artha. So it is expected that the householder would accept the sannyasi as a guest and offer their best. But if a sannyasi goes to the, or sorry, renunciate, I mean, goes to a householder's home or abode, or the griha of the house, with the intention of enjoying, then the renunciate is actually partaking in artha and kama. So which is not for that ashram. So it becomes very important that a renunciate maintains the appropriate etiquette and also the consciousness when they are in that situation. Now, here, Prabhupada is also saying in the purport that, therefore, the holy saints actually have no self-interest with the householders. They have no self-interest. Their interest is in the person's house they're going to. And a householder who dishonors such holy orders is a great offender. And Prabhupada has stood by this statement because many of even the acharyas in our line, they may have taken sannyas from a Mayavadi, like Madhavendra Puri. Whenever they have like the Puri surname, they have generally taken sannyas from Mayavadi. But the fact that they are sannyasi renunciates should hold them in some respect at the very least. So, for example, when Prabhupada and his disciples were in India, they saw that there was a like ekadandi sannyas. Like they generally Mayavadis take single stick sannyas, and they saw some of them walking by, but none of them offered their respects to them. And after they walked by, Prabhupada, in a soft way, kind of chastised them. He told them that they are renunciates. They've taken the vow of sannyas, and they may be preaching something that may not be at the highest level, but since they're renunciates, we must offer them respects. And then all of the brahmacharis who were with Prabhupada, they offered their obeisances to the sannyasi who had walked by. So Prabhupada is actually, practicing what he preaches. So here he says, um, a householder who dishonors such holy orders is a great offender, but that does not mean that it is only one sect that should be offered respect. Anybody who's in the renunciate should be offered certain respect. It is enjoined, therefore, that a householder who does not bow down before a saint at once must undergo fasting for the day in order to neutralize the great offense. So, this is as Prabhupada has been preaching. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya 839, there is little more detail on this topic that we're discussing. So the verse is, it is general practice of all saintly people to deliver the fallen. Therefore, they go to people's houses, although they have no personal business there. And it's okay. It's a pretty long purport. Maybe we don't need to go into all of the details of it. But maybe the first few lines, like a sannyasi is supposed to beg from door to door. He does not beg simply because he is hungry. His real purpose is to enlighten the occupant of every house by preaching Krishna consciousness. A sannyasi does not abandon his superior position and become a beggar just for the sake of begging. Similarly, a person in householder life may be very important, but he may also voluntarily take to the mendicant way of life. And Prabhupada gives example of Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami, who had both loads of wealth, literally, and they could have lived a very comfortable life, but they chose to live under a different tree every night. And if we translate it to modern life, it is basically a homeless person who does not have a place that they can call home. They Wherever they find some shelter, they just take shelter there. So Rupa and Sanatan Goswami, they show by example that real wealth doesn't come from having a big bank balance. Real wealth comes from having what money can never buy. That is love for God. And as a result, because they had the greatest wealth, the big bank balance that they had was so tucha, as they would call it. They didn't think much of it. They just let it go, as one would let go of stool and walk away. They just let go of their wealth. They willingly gave it away. And when it was most required for Sanatan Goswami, Rupa Goswami had left some wealth for him to escape from jail. But he didn't escape from jail and take the money and enjoy it. He literally gave everything away, right? So that is what the sannyas order follows. And there's also a verse that is actually one of the only verses that's repeated twice in the Srimad Bhagavatam, once in the first canto and once in the fourth canto. That is Tulayama Lavenapi. Na Tulayama Lavenapi, na Swargam, na Punarbhavam, Bhagavat Sangi Sangasya, Martyanam Kim Uta Ashishah. It says, even a moment's association with a saint is sufficient for one in the most dire moment of their life. Na swargam, na punarbhavam. They don't need anything related to swarga or punarbhavam. So the value of a moment's association with the devotee of the Lord cannot even be compared to the attainment of heavenly planets or liberation from matter. And what to speak of worldly benedictions in the form of material prosperity, which are for those who are meant for death. Uta ashishah. It's meant for one who has ashish, or who has the desire. It's only a desire for the person whose um, fate is to die. Only such a person, which are for those who are meant for death, would want material prosperity. So here, the emphasis is not on being poor. The emphasis is on being wary of the fact that wealth is not, the money is not real wealth, but having love for God is the real wealth. So you can be materially impoverished and poor, but you can be the richest person in the whole world if you have the real wealth, that is love for Krishna. Now, how do we attain this love for Krishna? And this chapter and the next few verses until the close of the chapter talks about that one ingredient which we would like to have, and that is having the attitude of humility, and better still, the attitude of a beggar. Bhakti Tirtha Swami has a series of books called the Beggar series. I think it's 4 or 5 books, if I recollect. And he talks about how to become a better beggar, not for alms, but for Krishna Prem. And we will just maybe I would, it would be nice if it was interactive, but maybe I can just ask one, at least one from the audience. When you see a beggar, what would you say? What would come to your mind when you see them? And what do you think will be one of the characteristics you'd like to learn from a beggar that you see? And-
I like to learn from beggars.
or what comes to your mind when you see a beggar? So
Um, I feel gratitude for what I have. Yeah, I feel that I could also be in that situation, but Krishna is providing me more than what I deserve.
very nice. Prabhupada has
I
also
also
covered.
feel that I don't have anything to be. I feel I don't have any prasad. I should have something to be.
Perfect. Karukarna Prabhu has basically covered what Prabhupada says here. See, Prabhupada himself says, the householders therefore should feel grateful when such saints and sages appear at their doors. And I think Chaitanya Charan Prabhu says, if you're not grateful, you're a great fool. So having that gratitude that, oh, Krishna has actually been very kind to me, He could have put me in that situation and I probably deserved it, but he chose not to do that, and he's given me such a good position. Maybe I should utilize it better. So we feel that gratitude. And the second one point that you mentioned, bro, what was that?
That I should have given him something. But
Yes. This is the exact attitude that one must have when offering prayers to the Lord. Akinchana. I have nothing to give. What can we possibly give to Krishna? So when we offer prayers, we close our palms. If we are giving something, we would open our palms and give. Even if you're giving in one hand, you cannot close your palm and give something, except a fist pump maybe, but you cannot give anything. So if you have to give, your palms will be open in some way. But when you have nothing to give, then you close your palms, because you cannot give anything. You can only accept or receive whatever Krishna wants to give us. So akinchana is one of the qualities or characteristics that are very important for prayer when anybody is offering prayer to the Lord. And as Kaudukarna Prabhu said, when he sees someone who's materially unfortunate a little bit, he feels that he wants to give something, but if he has, he'll give. If not, he feels that akinchana bhav. So the same quality we can learn from the beggar and apply it to our prayer. So when the beggar begs, they don't have anything to give. They ask and receive humbly. And many times, I've seen there are much older people than me who are in the unfortunate circumstance of having to beg to make a living or to make ends meet. And in such situations, they rid themselves of their false ego. When they see, let's say, somebody younger or some child, they don't discriminate whether, oh, this person is younger than me, I cannot ask them. They don't have any false ego. They go to anybody and everybody because all they need is to make their ends meet. Similarly, a devotee must get rid of their false ego in order to become humble enough to request or seek. It could be shiksha, it could be some other anything that they need to be in a mood of humility. And I think last time I was quoting Kulashekara Alvar, Yat Krishna Pranipata Dhuli Dhavalam. Only that head is considered to be a great one that bows down in humility in front of the Lord or in front of the devotees in humility. And uh, Pranipat is actually the most important aspect of approaching a spiritual master in humility, because you may not have anything to give, but you're willing to give yourself completely in surrender to the spiritual master. Tadvidi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadakshante te jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshinaha. Going to a tattvadarshi, one who has seen the real tattva of the Supreme Lord, and offering yourself, pranipat, in a mood of humility, and asking questions, clearing your doubts, and that would be the right way to go about it. So humility, pranipat, is a very important aspect of begging, not just materially, but also for. So I remember, at least in the Bay Area, sometimes when somebody is begging, they would hold up some cardboard sign saying, please, I would like to have a meal, or please, I need to feed my dog, or something like that they would hold up. Um, I- for work, I had been to Nashville, and there it's quite a party place, party town. And there were a lot of beggars, but they were not saying, I please give me money for eating. They say, please give me money for alcohol, or please give me money. I just want to have another shot, another joint, or something like that. So that is an incorrect form of like begging. There are also some people who beg out of humility, but behind the scenes they are not humble. They just want something from somebody, and they use it for their own good or their own needs. And Krishna knows the heart. So he understands that this person is begging with sincerity, begging insincerity. Many times we see, especially in India outside the temples, there are a lot of people with begging bowls standing there, but they kind of feel entitled. They're generally chatting with each other, and if somebody comes, they ask for alms, and when they collect it, they'll just say bye, and then they'll use that for whatever purposes, whether it's to engage in intoxication, or it could even be eating meat. You never know. So it is necessary that we should, tread with caution in this regard. So no entitlement. Sarvopadi vinirmuktam tatparatvena nirmalam. Rishikena rishikesha sevanam bhaktir uchyate. This is what Narada Muni quotes as pure, like devotional service, what the highest form of bhakti is. And Rupa Goswami translated this verse or used this verse as the base to talk about what Uttama Bhakti is. And yeah, so that was one about it invokes compassion, akinchana, and no form of entitlement. Um, Begging for whose benefit? And it's also said that the pauper sometimes is proud of his penny. Sometimes, if so, I have kind of heard or read somewhere that like one beggar, he had a better bowl than the other, and he was flexing on that other beggar. I have a better bowl, so I have a higher, better probability of receiving more money for my sustenance than you. And it said that the pauper is proud of his penny as well. And the devotional aspect of that is sometimes when a renunciate, he can get very attached to the only deerskin mat they have or the kamandalu that they have, that if they lose it, they feel like a portion of their life has gone away. That form of attachment should also not exist. That is why they are known as renunciate. As we've seen the Chaitanya Leela, about the devotee who had the blanket, very good blanket, and they exchanged it for something with holes in it. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very happy about that because they were not attached to any possessions that they had. They were willing to give the most opulent blanket somebody had donated to them, but exchange it for some used blanket with a lot of holes in it, which may not even serve the purpose of keeping the devotee warm. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very happy that this renunciate gave it away. And humility comes with what Guru Maharaj likes to call the attitude of I need help. That's how Gajendra offered his prayers. He didn't offer the prayers like, I'm sick of this world, so please help me. His prayer was, I really need help because this crocodile has already, caught my feet and I really need help. And in that humility, he offered, Madar Prapanna Pashupash Vimokshanaya. So as an animal, I'm nothing. I'm not a devotee. I'm not a brahmana. But you please accept this lotus, and he offers it, and Krishna accepts it. So the beggar comes with the attitude of I need help, and only if someone really needs help will compassion move the person to offer something in donation. The reason I was mentioning about the renunciate or the pauper is still proud of his penny is because of what is mentioned in the Madhurya Karambini as one of the aspects of unsteady devotion service, and that is called Taranga Rangini. Taranga Rangini means sometimes when somebody may receive certain praise or certain high position, it may actually get to them, it may get to their head, and as a result, they may perform actions that are contrary to what they were preaching, and as a result, they may have like a downturn. So that's one of the aspects of unsteady devotional service that Harivamsha Prabhu had discussed in the BYS several years ago. So the pauper should definitely not be proud of his penny. Another interesting observation that I would like to discuss is we say this is urdhva moolam, as in this material world is a reflection of the spiritual world, and a lot of the activities associated or closely related with begging seems like one of the lowest activities one would perform in this material world, but actually they are the highest activities that you can perform for spiritual benefit. If one surrenders themselves, not like the police surrender, but surrenders themselves in terms of hridvag vapu, in terms of their body, mind, and words to the spiritual master or to some superior spiritual authority, like a Shiksha Guru or anybody, it is considered a form of weakness in the material world because people like to stand on their own feet. Who they like to be their own boss. They like to, you know, be able to sustain themselves, not depend on others. So they see that as strength. And when somebody surrenders and gives themselves up for a cause that they believe in, they see that as a form of weakness or a form of a lowly activity to perform. But actually, that is the highest activity in a spiritual sense. And materially, it may seem the lowest, but actually, it is very spiritual. And the same comes for begging as well. If somebody begs, it is considered as a very lowly activity that one must never do. The exact opposite is actually said. Oh, you're taking the victim mentality if you're begging. You must, fight and earn your position, and all of these things are said. It can be used in devotional service, But the fact that begging is actually the main thing in Krishna consciousness, we're begging for mercy, we're begging for Krishna's grace, we're begging for devotee association. All of what we offer in prayer and make a request to the Lord, request is one way to look at it, but we are actually begging the Lord because we have nothing to give. When we're requesting, we may have something to give, but when we're begging, we have actually nothing to give. So we spoke about surrender and being a servant. That's the most important aspect of the Krishna consciousness movement. If somebody says I'm a servant of my boss at work, they think you're a sycophant or you're just doing it to earn the boss's favor or something like that. But actually being a servant of the spiritual master is the greatest benefit that a disciple can receive. And Kulashekara Alvar, who's a king, he himself says, Majjanmana phalamidam madhukaita bhare, mat prarthaniya madanugraha esha eva, twad bhritya bhritya paricharaka bhritya bhritya, bhrityasya bhritya iti mam smaralokanatha. If you counted, I said maybe 6 or 7 times bhritya, that is, he's saying servant of the servant of the servant of the servant, 7 times removed. As a king, he wants to be such a servant, and he considers mat janmana phalam idam. I consider it to be the greatest fruit or the greatest success of my life. Madhu kaita bhare. If I can be a servant of the servant of someone who is a servant of Madhu Kaitaba, that is the one who destroyed the Kaitaba demon, that is Sri Krishna. If I can be maybe seven, it could be, actually it could be multiples also, 7 million, because when they say these, multiples are also acceptable. He wants to be a servant of the servant of the servant, and he considers that to be his greatest fruit of his life, success of his life. And he's a king, and the king is saying this. So he has really understood that being the king and being everybody's boss is not the greatest, but being a humble servant of the real boss, that is Krishna, that is the real thing. So if you see, all of these activities that we consider to be lowly in this material world are actually the ones that offer the highest spiritual benefit. Surrender, being a servant, being a beggar, being humble. And I think in the Bible, it also says only the meek and humble inherit the kingdom of God. So the same holds true here as well. Only the meek and humble beggar will make ends meet. So that is another aspect I want to discuss. And a few other things that I was just trying to think of, that when I see a beggar, I see that the beggar is very patient. The beggar doesn't just because one person did not give them alms, they just don't give up begging, right? They continue the process and they persevere. They keep trying again and again. And this is something I remember from Roger Federer's speech at Stanford University. So in that speech, uh, yeah, I think it's Stanford or MIT, but that doesn't matter. But in the speech, he mentions that he gives some statistics. He says Roger Federer is like the greatest tennis player, um, and he recently retired. And he was saying that of all the shots that he played, he um, he won 84 of the points, 84% of the games he ever played in all of the Grand Slams that he's won. He won 84% of the games he played. And then he was just talking about his statistics, and he asked the audience, how much how many of those points did I win? He asked. He may have won 84% of the games, but how many of the points did he win? He's easily the best. And he himself says, I won only 54% of the points. And he's trying to say, and he didn't say he's the best, but he said among the top players, even the top seeded player barely wins half of the points in the entire game, but they overall end up winning 84% or more than 70, 80% of the game as a whole. But point to point, he has lost 46% of all of his points. They're barely almost half. And he's one of the best. And he goes to say that he takes every shot at face value. It may be the most impossible shot that he played, and then he won that point or the set or whatever it is. But the next minute, the next second, or the next point, he starts from zero again. Right? He won the point, but it's still 15, for example. And he just won an easy point, even that is 15. He lost a point, the other person gets 15. If, no matter how hard he endeavored for that point, all he gets is 15, and the very next second he has to give that up, or that fame that he won that point very valorously. He has to give it up and play for the point. So he's trying to say that even in life, such circumstances will come upon us. We must persevere and take each thing at face value and be equipoised in the way we receive it. So that's exactly what we can also learn from a beggar. Just because somebody gave them $1 doesn't mean the next person will also give them $1. It's again starting from zero. So they need to keep going. And the same, I think, can be applied to book distribution as well. So just because somebody gave a donation, it doesn't mean you pack your bags and leave. You continue until the end of the day, or your energy allows. But each person is one point at a face value. So that's what Roger Federer also said, and it resonated with me. And I remember when I was thinking about how a beggar, he just because he lost this point doesn't mean he's not going to get any more donors to fill his plate. He continues to go to the next person. So he has patience and perseverance. Utsahan nischaya dhairya tat karma pravatana sangatyaga satovritte shadbir bhakti prasiddhyati. As Rupa Goswami says, you need to be utsahan. You need to have that enthusiasm. Dhairya. You need to be dhira. You need to be sober-minded. And nischaya dhairya, dhairya. And you need to have the strong belief that yes, this is the process for me in Krishna consciousness. So similarly, a beggar also has utsahan, nischaya, and dhairya. Only then will he receive sufficient to fill his stomach. Um, yes, I was. And I think in some class, I think Kautukarna Prabhu was mentioning about how Bhaktivinoda Thakur mentions that first you get shiksha, which is knowledge, then you get diksha, which is initiation, and then you do bhiksha, which is begging. So it is the Bhaktivinoda Thakur's SSB formula: shiksha, diksha, SDB formula: shiksha, diksha, and bhiksha. So I was from Kautukarna Prabhu had mentioned at some point. And actually, if you recollect, I was just trying to see where I've seen beggar being used. And Prabhupada, in the very last line of his Jaladuta prayers, he says, I have no devotion, nor do I have any knowledge, but I have strong faith in the holy name of Krishna. I have been designated as Bhakti Vedanta. And now, if you like, you can fulfill the real purport of Bhakti Vedanta. He's offering this prayer to Krishna. And he signs this document, the most unfortunate, insignificant beggar, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, 1965, Jaladuta. So Prabhupada himself is saying he's an insignificant beggar. And he's showing by example that this is the real akinchana attitude that one must have. He had the greatest fruit of the tallest tree to give to everybody, but he felt he was not the medium to do it. And he was praying to Krishna that he's offering himself to Krishna. You please use me. I may be a medium that is not transparent via medium, but you use me however you can, and then show that Bhakti Vedanta would means I will be able to give at least something to everybody. So he's also offering the thing. And I forget the name. It was in Shantipur. Actually, when Prabhupada was in Radha Damodar, the head pujari of the Radha Damodar temple would see him chant like 128 rounds, and he would constantly cry and beg and offer obeisances to the lordships. And he would think, oh, maybe this person is so sincere. He's offering sincerity is another characteristic of a beggar. He's so sincere that he's offering so many, like he's chanting such with such sincerity. He may end up doing something great in his life. Krishna will really be merciful towards this person. And then when he got news that, oh, there are a lot of brahmacharis from abroad who have come to India and everything, and he saw it and he's like, yes, I know him, Srila Prabhupada. I've seen him, and I knew he would do this. And that was what the head pujari of the Radha Damodar temple was saying. If anybody would have done it, it had to be him. And I knew it, and I know why. And then he was explaining how this was his sadhana at the Radha Damodar temple. That was the precursor to what took place after 1965. And he was saying the real begging happened before. And then Krishna wanted to show the world that he's the greatest, or he's the greatest preacher. I just wanted to complete by talking about one brahmachari who may not be spoken about a lot in from the Chaitanya Leela, although we may not have too much time. So I'll just quote one thing I want to talk about, and that is the Shuklambar brahmachari, who's a brahmachari who had a begging bowl, and he would beg alms and get parboiled or chipped rice, and Mahaprabhu would eat from his bowl. And so Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur quotes this one thing from one of his from the Chaitanya from his Gaudiya Bhashya to the Chaitanya Bhagavat. I'll just read that one small like few sentences. So this is to Shuklambar Brahmachari. He says, as Mahaprabhu is saying, "You are my poor servant, lifetime after lifetime. You have no desire to enter into this world to become the head of a household. Rather, you remain a bachelor and beg from house to house, making an offering to me of whatever you amass in this way. Your vow of celibacy is unbreakable. You are free of the mundane egoism that is prominent in householders and retired householders. You are thus factually fixed in the highest state of spiritual life, the highest stage of the renounced order. You are a de facto sannyasi, a completely surrendered carrier of the triple staff because you have successfully engaged every action of your body, mind, and speech in my service. I pray constantly for your offerings, for you have no interest in enjoying anything which has not been offered to me. It is for this reason that I have made a show of my power and taken everything away from you, making you poor." Shuklambar Brahmachari was very fortunate, for the Lord snatched his food from him and ate it himself. CC 110, 38. Um, okay, I think we are on time.
This is CC or Chaitanya Bhagavat?
Oh, Chaitanya Bhagavat, sorry. Sorry.
This is
CP.
CV.
Yes,
Ah,
Chaitanya.
Leela.
Yes, yeah, sorry. Yes, that's correct. Yeah, it's 216, 123, and 110, 38.
1038.
I think I will stop here. Just to summarize, we're talking about how to be a good beggar. So we saw all the characteristics that require to be a good beggar. That is, you should have some humility. You need to really embody the principle of I need help. That is the real jewel of Srinadapi Sunichena Tarori Vasaishmana. Amanina Manadena Kirtaniya Sadahari. So the beggar would generally give respect to everybody and not expect anything for himself because he is begging after all. So everybody else who walk by are greater than him. So he really embodies this principle. Then I spoke about just touched upon patience and perseverance, like Roger Federer's speech. They endure failure after failure, and they never give up. Um, yeah, and yeah, they are the ones who are actually rich in devotion. Not the beggar, but the person who really thinks. So with that, I would like to um, request request some corrections, and so that I can improve my presentation in the future. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Timpu, yes, please, yes, bro.
Hare Krishna. Danvats pranams, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, and my obeisances to all the assembled devotees. Thank you for the wonderful class, Prabhu. I really liked what you said. Sorry about I'm having an allergy attack over here, so it looks like I was crying or making faces the whole class. So thank you for patience. Yeah, I liked what you said about the namaskar. We have our hands are closed because factually we have nothing to give, and it reminded me. In the morning we see the Chaitanya Murti, and his hands are out open. He's has nothing himself also, but it's like he's begging and blessing at the same time. He's begging us to chant the holy names, and he's also blessing. Achita Veda Veda Tattva is doing simultaneously blessing and begging. So only the Lord could be so mystic in that way. Thank you for your class, Prabhuji.
Amazing, bro. Thank you, bro. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. I was thinking about this story of Sanatana Goswami when he used the wealth given by Rupa Goswami for getting out of the jail. So he's using the material wealth, so-called material wealth, to come closer to Krishna. So otherwise, this yeah, the artha should not be used by sannyasi, but he utilized it for getting closer to Krishna. So similarly, Prabhupada, he had a lot of wealth after coming to West, but he utilized every penny for serving Krishna. I remember when he bought the Fisher Mansion in Detroit. There was a big mansion. It was purchased by um, Amrish Prabhu and yeah, Alfred Ford. Yes, actually. So Prabhupada was there. He did the deal. He bargained with the seller, and he closed the deal. And in Prabhupada Lilamrita, in Prabhupada Lilamrita says that Srila Prabhupada came without any money and he left without any money. But he did the business for the pleasure of Krishna. He bought the big mansion, but he was still aloof from all of that. He is servant of the Lord, engaging his devout disciples, ending their money in serving Krishna. But he himself did not have anything. Of course, I mean, he was legally, he was the owner of everything in ISKCON. But I mean to say, he was not attached to any of these. He used everything in serving Krishna. And that mode also we can see in His Holiness Gopal Krishna Maharaj in his will. He mentioned that whatever I don't have any personal possession, whatever I have is for ISKCON, should be used in the service of Srila Prabhupada. So it's a Yukta Vairagya. Even though they are sannyasis and they're having so much possessions, but they know how to engage it in service of Krishna. Otherwise, that can cause a downfall, as you mentioned. Even a pauper is proud of his penny.
Yes.
So it's very difficult situation. Actually, only by mercy of our previous teachers we can engage that in Krishna service and remain a beggar. Actually, His Holiness Gopal Krishna Maharaj said that we are in a begging business. He was here when he was here a few years ago during one of the classes he gave during Bhadra Purnima. He said we are beggars. We are in a begging business. Yeah, that's all true.
Oh, thank you, Prabhu. I was just noting down. Okay.
Yeah.
Think. Stop.
Yeah.
Granth Raj Srimad Bhagavatam ki